great. It's been a minute. It was a little bit under the weather. Feeling better now. Not quite 100%, but pretty damn close. So, a couple of stories we need to cover and catch everybody up on. So the first one, the ATF apparently now covers traffic duty for minors. So this story had popped up on a couple of different channels. These channels right here. Check them out. They got excellent good footage. But I'm just going to cover the basics because that's all that really matters here. So essentially what had happened is a police officer and the ATF pulled up like madmen, jumped out of their vehicle. Ran up to the door, instructed the mother to make their kids come out immediately because they needed to talk to them about jaywalking. Now, I don't know what the ATF is concerned about jaywalking for, because alcohol, tobacco, firearms. I mean, did they jaywalk with a machine gun? Were they carrying a bottle of liquor? Were they smoking cigarettes? What exactly would be the point here? Why are you harassing these people? And they didn't just like say, hey, we want your kids to come out, please. They were demanding it. Like,
send them outside last time I'm asking. Last time. I promise you it is. Last time.
Yeah, demanding it. And then when they couldn't get their way, they called in the cavalry. Finally, somebody must have been like, hey, this isn't a very good look for us, let's leave, and they ultimately backed off. But that's pretty crazy. A lot of people are like, oh, the ATF isn't tyrannical, they're not just out there doing things and harassing civilians for no other reason to ensure job security. Case in point, Exhibit A. So, a couple other things. Gonna do a minor update on my case, and the first massive thing is if you'd like to help support me fighting the ATF, the best way to do that is purchase a Freedom Beanie. Or you can purchase one of my beautiful patches right here from ShopOnlyTacticalFans.com. All of them have a Velcro backing, which you can use to stick directly to your Cool Kids gear. This particular one is embroidered, but the other ones are PVC. So, had court today. A couple of things came to light. The first thing was, you guys had asked me, like, what exactly is that guy facing? So in court today, they said he is facing 110 years in prison, millions of dollars in fines, seizure of all assets. I'm facing 75 years, $2 million in fines, seizure of all assets, including this house. Funny side note on that, when we had court, the magistrate or judge was like, have they received all their discovery from the new superseding indictment? And the prosecutor froze. And then stumbled for a second and was like, oh, they're getting their discovery on a rolling basis. And the judge was like, uh-huh. He didn't say it, but you could practically feel him think, so you're just kind of making things up as you go along? That's what we're talking about here? Why did you indict this guy if you don't even have your discovery put together? But, moving on from that, the next thing that you guys need to be aware of is, so in Florida, they had made a law that 18 to 21-year-olds couldn't buy firearms. And obviously it went to court. That particular case, it didn't come out favorable, so it went to appeals court. When it went to appeals court, it went in front of a 3-judge panel, and they were like, yes, that is constitutional. It says right in the Constitution that 18 to 21-year-olds can't have firearms. This is what the Constitution looks like right here. I don't see anything at all from the people saying that, we don't want us under the age of 21 to have firearms, so we'll just write that in there. Because remember, this is a document from the people to the government, not from the government to the people. So anyway, not even 24 hours later, the rest of the 11th Circuit Court spoke up and they're like, we're going to take a look at that. They didn't say that they didn't agree with it, but they went to spoke up if they didn't. So basically, 3 judges were like, yes, it is totally 100% in the Constitution that 18 to 21-year-olds can't buy firearms. And then the rest of the 11th Circuit spoke up within 24 hours and was basically like, we're going to reverse this. So that's really cool.
The judges in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, on their own initiative, without even consulting the parties, have the authority under the law, including Federal Rule of Appellate Procedure 35, to just decide to hear a case en banc, whether the parties want it or not.
So I didn't really follow court cases until, obviously, I was thrown into the thick of it. But since I've been thrown into the thick of it, I've never seen a circuit speak up against itself. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it shows a lot of progress forward. And the train's moving. It can't be stopped. I don't know if it'll be my kid's lifetime or my lifetime, but I think we will ultimately default to the Second Amendment and how it is written. Just because everybody's been exposed to the truth and that can't be undone, not to mention the next generation of children, they don't watch TV. They only watch specifically what they want and they stream it. So all those propaganda messages that were shoved down my throat, shoved down our parents' throat, shoved down our grandparents' throat are all gone. They hear a message, regardless what it is, we'll pretend water is made out of bleach. Instead of like news stations all taking this and packing it down the consumer's throat, they jump on Google, is water made out of bleach? And they do their own research. And that's the same thing with like gun problems. Guns, stuff like that themselves. And if anybody does even just, like a 5-minute Google search on different gun questions, they'll find out that most of what they're told is a complete lie and it's fake. And it's just getting wound back. I think the actual tipping point was the lockdowns. I think like right there, it was kind of on the edge, but still going in an anti-gun direction. But that happened and bam. Now we're going to more of a constitutional direction because everybody felt what it's like to give the government overwhelming control. And they're like, that's not cool. I didn't like that. We need to just wind that back a little bit. So, in a knee-jerk reaction to try to counter this, which isn't going to help, because it just paints them in a bad picture. Kind of like my case. Regardless of the outcome of the case, it doesn't really matter because it happened. It's on public record. This will always be thrown in the ATF's face. Anywho, so Biden, he does some executive orders. It's written in lizard language. I don't read lizard language. I did my best to try to interpret it into something that's consumable. So I may be 100% off base. I'm just going to tell you what I've seen. So the first thing is they're talking about gun transfers. What I'm gathering from it, and again, I may be 100% wrong, because it's written in lizard, makes no sense. I'm just trying to make it make sense so you guys can consume it. All people will be considered a firearms license dealer liability. That's not quite worded right. Everybody will have the liability of a firearms license dealer. That's what I was looking for. Like, for example, when I started operating under an FFL, I no longer did private sales of my own firearms. I honestly thought that was going to be the vehicle they would try to use to get me off of YouTube, is they take a gun I sold privately and be like, hey, that's just what I thought in my head. I don't know how they would have spun it, but I'm like, that's probably the easiest way for them to get their foot in the door and pull me off of YouTube. I would have never guessed in a million years it would have been something stupid as a drawing, but we live and we learn. So essentially what they want to do is make everybody with that kind of liability. So basically, if you want to sell a firearm, you would have to essentially take it to a gun shop. The gun shop would log it in. A background check would be performed. And then it would be sold. This way the government can collect its sweet, sweet taxes. Am I right about that? I don't know. We got to wait and see how things pan out. But that's the vibe I was getting for it, is they no longer want private transfers. All transfers of any firearms whatsoever have to go through a gun shop, have to have a 4473, have to be taxed. The next one. They're talking about, firearms marketing to kids. As far as I know, there is no place, no TV station, not on YouTube, nowhere on the internet whatsoever where you're allowed to market a firearm to somebody that's underage. That's just been a taboo since I've been in the industry. I haven't seen any marketing to kids ever. So the vibe I'm getting from that is what they want to do is specifically target video games. I'm guessing like Call of Duty, that's probably why they're not the actual real names of the firearms. They have these made-up names. Again, it's a guess. I could be wrong on that, but that's the vibe I'm getting from it, is they wanted somehow have video games with only make-believe guns or something in it, or maybe on video games, all the guns have a bullet button. So on Call of Duty, you shoot your 9 rounds or 10 rounds if you got one in the chamber, and then you got to break the firearm open and use a stripper clip and reload it and then put the firearm back together. Or, I don't know. It kind of feels like they want to somehow I don't know. Who knows? Maybe in our kids' generation, if things don't get fixed, if they shoot a gun on full auto in a video game, the ATF will show up to their house, shoot their dog, kick in their door, and rip them off to jail. I don't know. Because, I mean, we're talking about, in my case, a drawing being considered the same as something real. Maybe they're going to look at video games. If you have a machine gun on a video game, it's the same thing as having a machine gun in real life. Who knows? Again, it's all written in lizard language. I don't know. The next one, it seems like a deliberate attack against 3D printing. I kind of seen that coming. Like 2 years ago, I was talking about the setup was there, and they were talking about, oh man, I brought an expert on the topic on, something about copyright, and even if the person don't claim it, and it's in a public domain, it can still be copyrighted depending on the sensitivity of the information. Really, really weird, way beyond my understanding of how data moves around. But in his new press conference thing, his executive orders, it kind of seems like they were taking a stab at 3D printing. So maybe like, they can't stop the information itself. That's not possible. But what they can do is, should you have a 3D printed frame, it would be contraband. It'd be the same thing as like having an auto sear or something like that. You drop an auto sear or a machine gun, you get caught with a 3D printed frame, that's contraband. That is illegal. Who knows? Again, it's all written in lizard. The next thing is they're trying to address the problem they made in shipping. We all know that as soon as they started forcing carriers to mark gun on the side of the package, shipping thefts of firearms went up by like 200 and some %. And they're trying to figure out how to address that. Obviously, the only way to address it is force people not to mark on the outside of the package of what it is, but that they're not going to do that. They're going to do something else. They're going to be like, oh, you know, we need to have this extra insurance so we can pay private investigators when a gun goes missing to try to track it down. So now if you want to ship a firearm, it's like $9,000 or some absurd number like that. So like the only way to transfer a firearm is hand-to-hand transactions. We'll have to see. So, out of all this stuff, is any of it going to make America safer in any way, shape, or form? No. What they're going to do with the whole transferring thing is they're just going to wrap guns in red tape and trap up innocent citizens. There's going to be a guy who doesn't understand the new regulation or whatever. He's going to sell his gun to his neighbor, and he's going to wind up in federal pound-in-the-ass prison. Did it make America safer? No. It made America substantially more dangerous. And remember, none of this is going to be going through Congress. They're just going to throw this down the pipe. So even if it gets shut down, we're going to be stuck with it for like, what, 5 years, 10 years? Until the Supreme Court gets their ass in gear and fixes it. So no, that's not going to make America safer. It's just going to put more people in prison. Putting people in prison, they're more likely to get in some sort of violent dispute, stabbed, sexually abused, something to that effect. So no, they're no longer safer. They put them in harm's way. That isn't going to make America safer at all. Next one, video games. Is taking guns out of a video game going to make America safer? I live in the real world. I don't live in fantasy land. If somebody dies in a video game, last I knew, it doesn't hurt anyone. I did hear this one example about somebody getting really mad about a game called Angry Bird and hurting someone. But last I knew, Angry Bird had nothing to do with firearms, so could it potentially make America safer? Highly unlikely. I mean, maybe... No, I really don't see it. 3D printing, can that make America safer? No. Shipping, can that make America safer? No. Remove the regulations you already put on there, and your 200% will go back down to what it was. Anywho, appreciate you guys watching my videos. If you'd like to help support the channel, shoponlytechfans.com. Otherwise, you can just click on the affiliate links in the description down below. Just by clicking on those particular links, even if you don't purchase what that particular link is for, just clicking on it. Doing the Amazon shopping you were already going to do anyway. And a little kickback for it because you came there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.